So we were talking about the diaspora, and we were talking about John and his family. And
well, I mean, that's just an example of it. When you turn, as Katie says, it's the size of Great Britain. When you turn this many people into homeless, penniless wanderers,
yeah.
how can they be professionals again? How can they work? Where can they work? How can they show that they have the credentials to work?
Yeah.
How can they prove themselves? And when you're over a certain age, do you want to?
Is it even possible to start again from scratch? Totally wiped out.
Right. My grandfather did that. He'd been in advertising in Stuttgart, Germany, and when he came here, and he was in his 40s, I guess, he started an interior design shop. Now, how he managed to do it, that's kind of like, and then a miracle occurs.
Yeah.
But for an older person, even a person in their 40s, to start over again,
it's really tough.
It's really tough, and the kids are confused and uprooted. Stability is very, very important for young people and for older people.
Yeah.
So there's two things going on. One is a sort of a socio-psychological trauma.
Yeah, post-traumatic stress disorder is something that is truly, that truly are in the PTSD. And we've been talking to people throughout the quarter, and it's a grieving process.
Yeah.
They've gone through the stages of anger and denial and coping and bargaining, and does seem like a lot of people are coming out of that.
They are coming out of that not through any help of anybody, but through pure will.
Perseverance.
There were lots of meetings in April. There were lots and lots of meetings, but they were all meetings about how to fill out FEMA forms and how to organize your district. But there were no AA meetings, psychological help meetings, group meetings, some church things, but very little. It really always get to work. And the number of mental health professionals was very low.
Yeah.
And you could see in people's eyes that they were in shock.
So now you're talking about April when you were here, the time before last. You were here in September and last April.
The hurricane was in October. And then I started screaming and yelling all over Connecticut, but to no avail.
So then you came back in...
So I came back in April. That was when they were ready to take us, because first they had to get the first responders in. You know, you have to decide whether you're coming to help or coming to hinder.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring people in and show them that New Orleans, and particularly the French Quarter, were okay. The restaurants were up and running, and the hotel was up and running, and support my friends.
Yeah.
In like the most logical way.
Yeah. And that was by bringing some business back to the French Quarter. That was something that you were in a position to do.
Right, and that's really what's happened here. Is everything really is a personal effort. People are not getting help from government. The houses that are getting rebuilt by the people who lived in them.
Yeah,
with their own money.
With their own money and with the help of their own family. In some cases, they pitch a tent if they can't get a FEMA trailer, and they do it themselves.
Jerry, the other Jerry who works at the front desk, she was given a trailer in Baton Rouge. She's in her 60s. She was working 14, 15-hour days here because they needed someone at front desk.
And commuting.
And she couldn't commute. She had to move in with her granddaughter here. Luckily, her granddaughter got an apartment.
Oh, okay.
But, I mean, to say you give people trailers is one thing, but to give them a trailer in New Jersey when they work in Albuquerque makes no sense.
Yeah, it makes absolutely no sense.
So, I mean, it's just a continuing travesty of government failure. It shows that we are, throughout the country, the lesson is, throughout the country, we are unprepared for any kind of disaster, whether it's human-made or natural.
Yeah.
This is a combination of the two because of failure in engineering practices and due diligence, and then weather. And you don't want to say, well, okay, so organize vigilante police. But that's what it's reduced to, and that's what it'll be reduced to if there's another tragedy like this.
Yeah.
The number of people affected is much, much larger than anyone's discussing.
Yeah.
The loss of productivity, the loss of security for a generation or two to come for having to be thrust out into the world district
Immeasurable.
is immeasurable. And this is a major city. This isn't just a tourist city.
Yeah.
This is a major port.
It's not like Branson, Missouri. Nothing against Branson. But
Well, I got something against Branson, but
no, but like you say, New Orleans is a huge port at the mouth of the Mississippi River. There's a lot of industry down here: shrimping, oil. It's
Pipeline
not
goes
just
right over there.
It's not just the French Quarter.
No, it is absolutely not. The French Quarter is historical and emotional center,
Yeah,
but it is not what's really going on here.
yeah,
Biloxi, there weren't any houses there anyway. It was all casinos where it blew over in Biloxi. To talk about rebuilding Biloxi is just to get tourist dollars in.
yeah,
Well, the tourist dollars that came into Biloxi did not benefit the rest of Mississippi to begin with.
yeah,
It did not improve the infrastructure for the people that were living there. That's not the point. The point is there's got to be affordable housing.
Yeah.
There's got to be schools and hospitals.
yeah. That's something that we've been walking around talking to people about how the sharks have come in and really jacked up the rents.
Sometimes it's not always the sharks. Sometimes it's the survival of the person who owns the building. They still have to pay
right,
taxes.
Right, because they're getting pressure to raise their rents from other providers, like people who are jacking up their insurance premiums, the tax assessments, or their mortgage.
And they have to, and maybe they live out of town or maybe they don't, they have to hold on to their properties.
Yeah, they have to do what they have to do.
I think a lot of people are resisting the mollification, two meanings to the word, but putting in little mini gaps and baby fat stores
Yeah.
in order to retain the character. When I was here in September, so I was here in April,
September,
and then again in September,
and now this is March.
and now this is March again. And I'm usually here in March. What happened was they weren't ready in March. They still had a lot of work to do.
Last year.
In September, it was a lot of the shops were closed. One in five was open. 9,000 people had moved out of the quarter.
Yeah.
And that's the basic infrastructure of running the place.
The labor.
And there were oddities like abandoned cars under this portion of I-10, and then you go down to the center of town, and there'd be no abandoned cars. Well, why was that cleaned up?
Yeah.
That was the business district instead
Yeah.
of where the poor people, the gay people lived, whatever like that.
Yeah.